and she was alarmed because she thought the Bible was the topic that I love to talk about. But marriage comes from the Bible, or understanding marriage comes from the Bible. And I love to talk and everybody knows how I boast about my long suffering in my marriage. And you've never heard it?
No, it's joy. Only joy.
Nobody's ever heard it?
Long suffering.
Long suffering. Just kidding. When I was much younger, I had this intense desire to always speak about marriage, but I was too young and inexperienced. And now I have a little bit of experience. You know, when I was much younger, people would say, "Give it some time, give it some time." You know, it will come, and maybe after a while, you won't be speaking so highly about marriage. And it's been a rough 5 years. Just kidding, just kidding. It's been a wonderful 5 years, actually, going to year number 6. And I always boast about. So here's the thing now, right? So six love, getting there. So here's the thing. I always thought that to be qualified to speak about marriage, you needed to go through some suffering and trial and tribulation. And unfortunately, that's not been my lot. Now I can tell you my marriage has been smooth sailing for the last 5 years. And I don't say this to boast or anything, but to just let you know that's the reality. Because oftentimes when people talk about marriage, it's always a negative light. The young people now, they are waiting much longer to get married. They may not even have the desire to get married. But I can tell you, I tell my friends, even at work, that marriage is a cheat code to life. If you do it right, it's a cheat code. You double the income, you double the strength, everything is doubled. But if you don't get it right, then everything is double. The problems double, you know. The debt doubles. So for those who have abstained from marriage, then, I mean, if that's your lot, some people are called to it. Some people are called to singleness. Some people are called to be married. And I know that I'm called to be married. My wife is called to be married once. Because she says, yeah, she says she has no desire to get married after me. Which is good, but I don't share the same. I don't share the same opinion. But I love marriage, and I love my marriage, and I want everybody to experience the good side of marriage. But if it's not for you, and you're single, and you are called to singleness, then I'm not judging you or anything, but I'm just saying that marriage is a wonderful thing. And I think if persons had an understanding of marriage, they would somehow treat it a little differently. Because right now, how persons are viewing marriage, how they are treating marriage, is as if push comes to shove and it gets too difficult, it's always easy to hop out. And Christ said it to the naysayers. It was not so in the beginning. Moses gave you this divorce, this way out, but it was not so. That was not God's intention. And so this is not necessarily to throw any stones or anything. I know it's a very sensitive and touchy topic, and that's not the intention. But I must show you a side of marriage that hopefully if you get it, it would improve marriages in the church. It would increase the desire for persons who may not want to get married, so they would want to get married so they can experience the wonderful joys of marriage. And so I'm gonna share with you some things. In Genesis chapter 1, when God created the heavens and the earth, sun, moon, and stars, land, vegetation, and the animals, he said it was good. It was good. It was a good thing. No, he didn't make the bridge. That was man-made. But that's a picture depicting. Anyway, But there's something that happened when we get to Genesis chapter 2, where he says something is not good. All right. So for the very first time, if you started the Bible, reading the Bible from Genesis chapter 1 and you're at chapter 2 now, for the very first time you realize God recognizes that something is not good. And what is not good? For the man to be alone. Genesis chapter 2 verse 18. Now, if you're like this baby, you're wondering why. And the antenna should be going off and you try to think about why is it that it was not good for man to be alone? So let me throw that question to you. Why was it not good for man to be alone? Any answers? Men cannot do without women. Huh? No further increase. All right. So no reproduction could take place without a woman. All right. Anything else? Nobody to cook. Nobody to cook. No, men cannot survive what? On their own. So men cannot survive on their own. Is that true? Men cannot survive on their own? Is that true, Brother Jonah? No. No, it's not true. So men can. Huh? Oh. Say what? He needed help. Okay, he needed help. So he could survive on his own, but he needed help. All right, that's not bad. So here's the thing. You have a different opinion. All right, good. They couldn't capture the true nature of God. All right, fair. So I've heard these reasons before that, one, as you said it was impossible for a man to reproduce by himself. And my question to that is, so didn't God know that?
Of course he did.
No, listen again. It is impossible because remember in Genesis chapter 1, God created man and woman, and he gave them the mandate to be fruitful and multiply, right? Didn't he know then that it would have been impossible by the man being alone to reproduce? So it seems as if God created man alone, because man was created first. But then God sort of observed him a little bit to see if he would multiply. And then he realized that he's not multiplying. No, that's the point. That's the point I'm making. No, that's the point I'm making. No, I'm not suggesting it. It's if you say to me that God recognized that it's not good for man to be alone, it seems to suggest that God was observing Adam for some time and said, boy, I'm now multiplying now.
Not doing it.
We have to go help him.
Not doing it.
So I don't necessarily buy into that argument. In Genesis chapter 2, between verses 15 and 18 now, after God recognized that it's not good for man to be alone, God called all the animals to Adam, and he allowed Adam to give them the name. And then it says, but no suitable helper was found for Adam. So is it a case where God was testing out these animals to see if Adam was suitable with any of them? No, I know, but I'm just saying. Adam, hold on. God brought the animals to Adam to name them. And then it says, and no suitable helper was found.
Not of that kind.
Well, we know that now. We know that.
I know that from the beginning.
So, right. So it's not a case where God was testing out to see if any of the animals were compatible with Adam, because none of the animals were made after the image of God, only Adam. Right? So these two reasons that I hear, plus the others, it still begs some questions. And I'll outrightly say, not true. They're wrong. It's not true. I believe that God recognized that something cataclysmic would happen by man being alone. And he says, this is not good. What is the question? So something could happen by Adam being alone that somehow the creation of woman would solve. And this is not a feministic presentation, but women somehow filled a gap that man was not able to. All right. Let's look at Genesis chapter 1, verses 26 to 28. So this is what, I'm going to show you what was at stake, why it was not good for the man to be alone. So then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Let him have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So man had dominion. You agree, right? From this. So God created man in his image, and in his image, in the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. And then God said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. Somehow, man being alone was not good because he was at risk of losing all of this. He was at risk of losing all of this. And not just losing it, but for it to be transferred to someone else. Now, we know the story of Lucifer in Ezekiel chapter 28, where Lucifer had his mission statement, his ambition. Between Ezekiel chapter 28 and Isaiah 14, Lucifer made it very clear that he wanted to be God. He wanted to be God. And his throne was going to be above God's throne. And a part of that means he had to take the throne away from Adam. He had to take rulership. He had to take dominion that was given to Adam to start, I guess, to kickstart that process. So, a lot was at stake. Adam, he was the federal head of all mankind. That's without debate. Everybody knows this. Adam was God's representative on earth. And somehow by himself, it was not good. He was at risk of messing up. He was at risk of failing. So his disobedience or his obedience would have implications on the entire world. And then God recognized that this was somehow not good. So he needed to do something about it. What does Adam's failure meant? Does anybody know? If Adam failed, what does it mean to God? What does it mean to mankind? Let's go through it. First thing, legal transfer of dominion and authority to Satan. Would you agree with that?
Yes, that's one.
All right. 2 Corinthians 4, verse 4. Satan, who is the God of this world. How did he become the God of this world? Did God create Adam and Eve, put them in the garden, and then put Satan over them?
No.
Was that the case?
No.
So something happened and he became the God of this world. What was it? And so here's something that I have to be careful when I'm saying it, but it's a reality. God somehow, and I don't understand, I'll confess, I don't understand it, but God somehow accommodates Satan and his challenges. He does. He accommodates him. He facilitates him. To prove a point, whatever the case is, I don't know. But he does. And if you read the book of Job, God was the one who Satan incited God to trouble Job. Job was a man, can you imagine? He was just living his good life, his best life, one of the wealthiest men in the area, in the region at the time. He does not know what's going on in the spiritual realm. He had no clue. Satan goes to this council meeting, And God now is asking him, where is he coming from? Have you considered my servant Job? Have you considered my servant Job? And so Satan poses a number of questions to God and said, does this man serve you for nothing? Does this man fear you for nothing? Because at the helm of his question, Satan is God's rulership. Is God fit to rule? And Satan says he's not. Satan believes that he would be a better God than God himself. And he sets out to prove it. How? I'm going to show you. If you take this man's life, if you take this man's kids away from him, if you take away his wealth, watch and see this man curse it to your face. Because these people only worship you because of what they are getting. So remove that from them, and now you'll see their true colors. And God says, all right. But over a period of time of testing over and over for Job, poor man went through so much. He started to lose faith. Like, what is God doing? And he raises a number of questions. Is God fair? Is he just? What is he up to? To the point now where God steps in. Who obscures my plan and my counsel? My judgments? Puny man, gird yourself. Let me speak to you. Ask him a number of questions to which God never answers. Because God doesn't need to answer your questions. But let me ask you a series of questions and you tell me if you can answer it. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Where were you? So if you can't understand that, what makes you think you can understand what is going on in the realm that you're not seeing? So that's why I said to you, I don't know. God facilitates these challenges. He accommodates it, but I trust him that he knows what he's doing and he will deliver you. Of course, if you read through the end of the story of Job, he comes through at the end and gave him more than what he had in the beginning. Because at the end of the day, we serve a God that can put us through things, he can take us out of it, and he can restore us. And so that's, and I'm going to go there. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But just to say that Adam's failure meant that the dominion that he received, he would have lost it, and he would have handed it over to Satan. And by himself, that was a great risk. Luke 4, verses 5 to 7. The devil took him, which is Christ, up and revealed to him all the kingdoms in a moment. And he says, I will give you the glory of these kingdoms and authority over them, because they are mine to give. How did he get it? Because of Adam's disobedience. So it's not a case where God recognized that he was alone. He cannot multiply by himself, because there are organisms that reproduce through asexual reproduction, by themselves. Is it possible? And this, just venture with me a little bit down the street of speculation. Is it possible that Adam could give life without having intercourse? All right. No. Is it possible that God could create Adam that way? All right. So he could create him that way so that he doesn't need a woman to multiply. All right. Here's the next question. When the kingdom of God is established and afterwards, when everything is made new, speculation this now, would creation stop at that point? All right. So Wayne says no. Anybody disagree with Wayne? We don't know, it's just his opinion. And we're going down the road of speculation. So we have to be careful, and I'm not saying this is dogma. If you say that creation will not stop and it will continue, I don't know what life forms that will be created. I'm not sure. We don't know. But assuming it continues, how will it continue? Is it through intercourse?
You
All
don't
right.
know. We don't know. We don't know.
Thank you. There will neither be male or female. They will be like the angels in the kingdom. Eh? The Magaban big. Anyway, let's not get too caught up on it. As I said, it's speculation. We don't know. But what I like about this kind of topic is that it allows us to have a conversation. And I was saying to my friends at work when I was trying to talk to them about the Bible and any mystery. If the thing was just written plainly for us to understand, the Bible would be a boring book. So a lot of people read the Bible and they leave it at face value. But God is not like that. God gives mysteries. He hides secrets. And he reveals it to us. So those now who are spiritually discerned will always go after those things, will always go after trying to understand the mind of God. And fully understanding that we won't be able to fully understand unless he reveals or until he reveals. But still, again, if we're here and every day we're reading the Bible, for argument's sake, we come to church on Saturday and all we're doing is just reading Genesis to Revelation. We're just reading it without diving deeper into what it could mean. Then, it's kind of boring, to say the least. But when you dig deeper, when you ask a question, when God says it's not good for man to be alone, and you start to ask, what does he mean by that? Is it what problem could a woman solve that man himself couldn't solve, or with God? Because he wasn't alone, Adam had God with him. Anything he wanted, God could provide it for Adam. He never needed to create a woman for that.
Careful.
No, man. I have to choose my words carefully. All right. So, Adam's failure meant legal transfer of dominion of and authority to Satan. The next thing it means, it doesn't stop there. It meant enslavement to sin, which the whole world find themselves enslaved to sin. Not a slave of righteousness, but a slave to sin. Ephesians 2:2-3. And he made alive who were dead in trespass and sins, in which you once walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air. How did he become that? Because Adam yielded his authority to the serpent. And by yielding his authority to the serpent, he transferred the authority to him. And thirdly, it also meant death. Romans 5:12-14. Therefore, just as through one man, which is Adam, sin entered the world, and death through that man. And thus death spread to all men, because all sinned. And death reigned from Adam to Moses, even over those who had not sinned according to the likeness of the transgression of Adam, who is a type of him who was to come. So death reigned. So essentially, Adam now gave the keys of death to Satan. And he now has the power over us, over death. So here's the question. What then is the solution to man's loneliness? What's the solution? Yeah, man, I know when I say that. Woman. A woman. Sorry.
A black woman?
Sorry.
A black woman? You sure?
Sorry. A woman.
Careful, Jeremy.
Anybody saw that movie?
Yeah,
Saw that movie?
Yeah.
It's a good movie. Warrior.
Warrior.
Yeah. No, that's not Eve. I doubt that's how she looked, um, but somehow God knew that by creating an extension of Adam, which she is an extension, equal in nature to Adam, he could somehow solve this problem and mitigate the risk of transfer. Now, if you're like this baby again, you're asking, how? How does the woman solve this problem? How does a woman solve this problem? Anybody have an idea? And I'm gonna venture down the road of speculation again, but it's just to engage and have discussion, but not to be dogmatic in any way. Why was Eve made from Adam's rib? Why not the foot? Why? All right. So side. So I've searched high and low for a response, and I found all of them to be wanting. I just cannot accept that it is to show equality. So he took it from the side to show that Eve, the creation from Adam, would be equal to Adam. I mean, you could have taken it from anywhere. Let's be fair. You could take it from the head, you could take it from the finger, but you could take the entire half, right? You could split him like how atoms split, and then create the neck.
Pain in the neck?
The neck. Yes, yeah. Ella says the neck to turn the head. But I'm curious, and when you read the Bible, I hope you have that level of curiosity as well, because again, it makes it very interesting. Now, what if they come up with this clever thing to say she was called woman, which is essentially a man with a womb. But that doesn't make no sense. I mean,
No, it doesn't.
it does make sense now, but
No, it's a man with a womb.
why wasn't it man womb then? Like man womb and not. It's just a clever way of saying it. But, and I'll tell you from now, I don't have the answer. But what if that thing, if the rib was symbolic of something, the rib was symbolic of something critical that had Adam given in to the serpent, he would transfer whatever God had endowed him with, but he would have kept something else from Satan. So therefore, so Adam cannot transfer this rib, let's call it rib for now, to Lucifer. And thereby, with that in mind, God kept a key ingredient from Lucifer. What is it? Let's break it down. So Adam was put in charge of everything. If Adam failed, everything would have been transferred to Lucifer, Satan. The dominion over the earth, the keys to death, etc., everything would now be transferred to Satan. There's one thing that God did not give Adam, but he gave Eve a version of it. So he gave Eve a version of this thing, but he never gave it to Adam. What do you think it is? Wisdom? Really? No, man. No, man. You'd think that the man would have wisdom. What? No. 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 I don't think that's not a good answer. That's not a good answer. I mean, he creates man and then does not give him wisdom, but he gives it to the woman. Like, I mean, not saying women can't be wise. I'm just, yeah. Women who are, wiser than men in many regards. Desire, curiosity, no. What is it? Headship.
No,
No.
I said childbirth.
Her what? Her V. Okay. 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 All right.
What about childbirth?
Okay.
What about childbirth?
That is it. That is it. So God, hold on. We'll tie it all together. We'll tie it all together. I promise. So God gives Eve. I don't know if it's significant to the rib. It could be. But he gives Eve something that Adam would not have. The ability to carry life. And remember when God created man, he desires that man have life and have it eternally. Right? So the reason I say it's a version is because the true life comes from the source, the tree of life, which was also in the garden. And to him who overcomes, Christ will give access to the tree of life. Now, Christ is also the life. Christ is the life. So, here is a provisional grace that was given to or separated from the man and given to the woman, in that if Adam fell, Satan would have the keys to death, yes, but not to life. Satan does not have the keys to life. God found a way to keep that away from him. And I couldn't sleep last night. I was just thinking about it. And I went to bed and my wife was there sleeping. The audacity. How dare she sleep? And I have no one to talk to. So, you know, when I'm going to bed now, I kind of just jump in at the bed like heavy, you know. And she kind of shake up and I said, "Hi, baby, you're awake?" Mr. I had so much to tell her last night, but she was sleeping. But I thought about it, and again, when I'm thinking about all of it, it sort of makes sense that God would keep this aspect from Satan. And I said, okay, so now it's kind of coming together. It's not good for the man to be alone, because if he's alone, then he's at risk of losing everything. Then he takes the rib of the man, creates Eve, and now Eve has this provisional grace to continue life. And so as long as the man and the woman remains together, life is a possibility. And I'll tie it up because it gets deeper than that. But for now, let's just say it's a loophole. God created the woman separate from the man, so that in the event that Adam fails, then the possibility of Christ stepping in man's likeness still remains. And so he now could do what Adam failed to do. Let's tie it together. Yeah, it was about life, but it is too easy to say that. So, it's a provision. But let's tie it together. So while man was given the keys to death, which was transferable upon his disobedience, woman held a provisional and temporal form of life. Because he realized the life that comes from a woman is temporary. It's not true life. Only Christ can give the true life and give access to the tree of life. But a provisional, temporal form of life is still accessible. And that provision made it possible for Christ to step in and to redeem man from sin. You follow so far? No, I know, and I will confess that by just listening to this presentation, you may have more questions than answers. And I'm looking forward to the question and answer afterwards. However, it becomes clearer, right? In Genesis chapter 3, the first aspect of the gospel is proclaimed at the fall of mankind. So the Lord said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly and you will eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and the man's offspring. Read it again. It's not the man's offspring. It's her offspring. Yes, her offspring and your offspring. And that offspring that comes from the woman will crush your head and you will strike his heel. So there we're seeing again the provision for Christ to step in, and he will, as a result of Eve. And then of course you know that Eve now becomes the mother of all living things. And I found it curious that, and maybe I'm going off on a limb, but I found it curious that when Eve was brought to Adam, he didn't call her Eve. He didn't call her Eve. He didn't name her Eve. He called her woman because she was taken from man. But after the fall, she was named Eve because now she'll become the mother of all living things. What was she before? Wouldn't she have been the mother of all living things before the fall? Again, speculation. But God gave Eve this provision to step in so that he could step in through the virgin birth without a man, so without the corrupt nature of the seed of man, so that he could redeem man and then ultimately restore him. So here's the good news. Christ holds the key. In Revelation, when you fast forward to Revelation chapter 1, I am he who lives and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. And I have with me the keys of Hades and death. Which is good, because he never had it. Satan had it. Yes. And he held it over us. And Christ now, having the keys, can remove us from the penalty of death. But not only that, he holds the key to life. I will give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. This is Christ speaking. And whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. Christ holds the key to life. And thus, it is written, 1 Corinthians 15, verse 45, the first Adam became a living being, but the last Adam became a life-giving spirit. What if, speculation now, what if Adam was supposed to be that life-giving spirit, but he failed? Christ had to come in and do what he failed to do. I don't know how it would have worked out, but it's very interesting to think about. How was this a marriage topic? Well, through marriage, this thing now becomes possible. It's a holy institution of marriage that allows Christ to redeem mankind. And so anything outside of that is a perversion. And so what I'm hoping to do is to give you a brand new perspective on marriage as a redemptive covenant. Marriage is that redemptive covenant. Which means then, when you look at your spouse, when you look at each other in your union, you are reminded why it is like this to begin with. Because God saw it fit, for one, not for man to be alone, but to give a provision for the redemption of man. The provision for the redemption of man. How does that make you feel? Because what you realize when you look at the state of marriages, it's not looking good. Not just in the church, but outside as well. But we don't really care too much about outside. I care about us here and the quality of marriages that we have. Now, I boast about my marriage continually because I'm hoping that someone will join me. But apparently, I am the lone. Okay. Mr. Ricky, I'm lying. Okay. So me and you, Ricardo. Marriage is a lovely thing, man. It's that holy institution that God gave us. And we get we get a chance to partake in the union. And have this deep understanding of what it means to be married. And you see, when Adam is joined to Eve, the woman, and they become one flesh, they become one, which means there's no separation. And if you go back to the beginning, which is why Christ says in the beginning it was not so, if you go back to the beginning, it shows you how serious God is when it comes to giving man life. So much so that in the event that because remember, he told him, he told Adam, if you eat of a tree that I commanded you not to, then you shall surely die. He never told him that, however, I'm making a provision for you just in case. He never told him. But then he working in the background. And just in case mankind slipped up, I'm not going to give up. Because it's easy for God to just give up. He could wipe and he has done it in Genesis chapter 6 with the flood. Yes. He could start over. He could remove Adam from the face of the earth, remove Eve, and start over. But the impact of Adam's sin was so great. And God says, "Me not take the L. Me need the W." And so I'm going to do whatever it takes to ensure that I win. So God is always 10 steps ahead. And even though he accommodates and facilitates Lucifer and his challenges, he's a defeated foe. He's a defeated foe. And so for us, we have to be encouraged. We have to trust God and understand that he knows what he's doing. And no matter how difficult and dark times become, God will not fail man. He will not fail man. In Malachi chapter 2, that's a lot, but essentially God hates divorce. Essentially. And we all know this scripture very well. He hates it. When you divorce, it's like violence. It's this one act that I am giving you to show you my commitment to give you life. You've taken it and you tore it apart. You spat in my face, indicating that essentially you don't want this. This life that I'm offering you, you don't want it. You no longer want it. You're not interested in it. And Jesus says it was not so in the beginning. It's because of the hardness of heart. So if you find yourself, for example, in a marriage that is not working, what does that mean? Is the problem with the institution? The problem is with man. And so it's very unfortunate that you hear a lot of young people now saying, boy, they must stay away from marriage because nothing is wrong with the institution, but I do understand from the perspective that people are just wicked and awful. And so to avoid that, we've already reached a stage in humanity where a lot of people are here. We've been fruitful and we've multiplied, so here what? I'll leave that to them and I'll stay here. And so you sort of forfeit the blessing or the blessed institution that God gives us. But what this also shows us is that why it's an abomination for a male to lie with another male. And we don't need to go into this too deep because everybody, I hope, believes that this is wrong. All right. One amen. There is no life that can be created from this union. There is no life that can be created. And God is all about giving life. That too.
No life.
Woman to woman. No life. This is another thing that destroys marriages. Adultery. Adultery. And I know I have said from the pulpit before, how many of you remember? I will never, you remember it? All right, Tariq, you're listening. I will never commit adultery. And you know what's funny about the statement that I made? Some persons came to me afterwards and said, you know, you shouldn't say that. Why? And I was shocked. I was shocked. It's impossible. Somebody said to me, you shouldn't say that because you don't know what will happen to you. And I'm saying, if we can't stand firm for some things, what can we stand for? We fall for anything. Of course, I will never commit adultery. I will never commit adultery. I'll say it again. I will never commit adultery. Listen, Bridget, I wear it as a badge of honor. I tell my friends all the time. And the reason I spread that news is because I want men to take up the mantle and hold me accountable, but also believe that it is possible within yourself and your marriage. You don't have to commit adultery. You don't have to. And one of the things that I realize is happening with me is that I don't get a lot of offers. No, I don't get any offers. I don't get any offers at all. And so I don't know. I've never been tested in the area. Never been tested. So I dated my wife for 3 years before we got married. Chosen my wife at the time, was faithful during the 3 years. When we got married, faithful up to this point that I don't know what will happen later. Just kidding. But I'm resolved. And you know one of the reasons I am so resolved about the adultery is because one, I know how devastating it can be. To the person who commits adultery and also the person receiving it. Devastating. And I've worked too hard to build what I have with my wife for it to be torn down or torn apart by a few moments of pleasure. I tell you, I can't see it happening. I don't know if she said the same. She's never ever said to me that, yeah man, it's the same thing for her, but I hope so. I hope so. No, but she's a fantastic woman. I don't think. So my thing is that I'm saying, you see, if we divorce, I tell her it's gonna be your fault. It's not going to be my fault. Because I'm gonna do everything that I need to do to ensure that that doesn't happen. And I assure her all the time. And I think that's very important to do. I assure my wife. And then what it does, it keeps me accountable. Because any day I can't walk to my wife and tell her, say, baby, you know, I did something wrong or I am still adultery free and so on. If I can't do that, then I'll be hurt. Not to say that you can't come back from it, you know, but that's my thing. And persons who are unmarried, my hope for you, or if you're married and you're young in the union, hold the same standard, man. God says no adultery. And it is possible. It can be done. It can be done. And the signs are very easy. If people flirt, it's likely to happen. So just don't flirt. Don't send any late text at night that's suggestive that you're interested. Don't do that. The signs leading up to adultery are so clear in my mind. I don't know if it's clear in your mind, but it's very clear in my mind. And that's just not going to be me. Here's a discussion that I want us to have now in a few minutes, 5 minutes or so. How can we improve the relationship in our marriages, the relationship with our spouses? I'll give you 3, and then I guess in the question and answer, we can have more discussion about it. What does this mean? What does that mean? What did I say? Yoked? Okay. You shall not plow with an ox and an ass together. Nobody knows what the principle of that text means. Do not be unequally yoked. Do not be unequally yoked. I always encourage, especially my female friends, because let's be honest, females are more vulnerable than men in terms of, they always say, good man short. Not in height, but because I'm very tall. not in height. Scarce. Let's use that word. Scarce. But you see, there seems to be a movement now that I'm seeing where young people believe that the spouse doesn't need to be in the church for them to get married. Just get rid of that mindset. Person has to be in the church. Person has to share the same faith. Person has to have the same centered values. Don't tell me that it's not important, man. It's very important. It's necessary. It's a must. And one of the criteria I had for my wife when I was dating her, I said to her, if you don't accept my faith, we cannot move forward. I said it. Now, some people say it's an ultimatum, and even so, when she started to come to the church, people are saying she doesn't come to church for you. So, and I've seen that woman grow in the church. She's blossoming and blooming. She's doing things on her own. She's taking initiative. She's serving. That's not for me. Can't tell you that. There are many nights I see her up. Baby, what are you doing? She's doing some church work, and she's reading some long documents. She has more discipline than me in that regard. Long documents, putting presentations together. And you know her Monday night presentation style. She has to have some PowerPoint. She's just phenomenal. Me just know, you see, this is the best I can do. This is the best I can do. She thinks this is rubbish. Compared to her standards, rubbish. When Rosanne puts her thing together, man, she's working on a document now, and she doesn't like to announce these things because she don't want the pressure. But then you can't pressure her. She's working on a document outlining the scriptures, the Bible. And trust me, when you see it, it's like a Bible project. Many of you know Bible project. It's like that. She's not showing nobody yet still, but it's amazing. That's not for me. Can tell you that. But one day I hope that we can put it on Amazon and sell it for
All right. Okay.
Back to the point, I'm straight. Don't hold this view. Young people, if you want to get married, if you desire to be married, tell whoever you're dating that they need to accept your faith. At another congregation that we serve, they're experiencing a lot of loss in young people. One woman now got married, and I've been going there for a little while, and I noticed that the woman is not there. So when I inquired, so she get married, the man in the church, and so it's kind of shaky. She comes and goes. Don't let that happen. Don't let it happen. And I know it's challenging because you want to be married, but then the man don't want to come into the church, and I understand that. But make him go on, man. If he's not coming in church, make him go on. Make him stay out there. You hold, straight. Don't bow, don't give in. And if he cannot commit, let him leave. Let him leave. Your salvation is more important than any man or woman. More important. Next thing, so don't be unequally yoked with unbelievers. The first thing. Male spiritual headship. You see that man who you get married to? I'm speaking to the females clearly. He has to love God more than he loves you. And that's one of the benefits my wife enjoys. You think I love her? Like I love God? Trust me, that's a benefit she enjoys. Because I love and fear God. The man has to be the spiritual leader. You can't be inviting the man to church and then you're there encouraging him, teaching him Bible and so on. After a while, yeah, you can do that. But that man's supposed to be the leader, spiritual leader in the house, in the relationship. 1 Corinthians 11:13. But I want you to understand that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the wife is her husband, and the head of Christ is God. That man must understand that hierarchy. He understands that he submits to God first. You see, if a man does that perfectly, why can't marriages be great? Why can't marriages be excellent if the man does that? Anywhere you tip the scale and the woman is more the spiritual leader than the man, trouble. Because it's going to be hard to keep that man down. Hard. Don't accept it. And if the man cannot commit to God, who says he will commit to you?
Well, that's a good question.
Who says he will commit to you?
That's a good question.
No, the flip side is true also, because I hear a lot that man in the church no is different and so on, and why it's rough, but we'll try. We're trying. We have to do better as male. Female submission. Gentlemen, if a woman does not submit to you, she wants to boss you around and order you around and want to take charge, make her go on to. Don't let her stay. It's not good. You're going to feel belittled. She must submit. She must understand her role in the marriage. And then both of you submit to each other. So the man is not in charge of his body and the woman in charge of her body. The man is in charge of the woman's body and the woman is in charge of the man's body. Mutual submission. Mutual. And you submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. And so I'll stop here. But just to give you some words of encouragement. Remind you, marriage is a beautiful thing. And I know I may have stepped on some toes, but it's out of love, trust me. It's out of love. And I don't want to see people going into institution, this holy institution, and making a mess of it. It's very painful. And what you realize is that people see the red flags and they blatantly ignore them. They ignore the red flags, they ignore counsel, and they run into situations and they end up hurting for it. Don't do that. God gave us this institution. It's a powerful institution. It's an institution of love. It's an institution that allows God to redeem man from his fallen state. And so we're in your union now. Just keep in mind that God wanted to give man life, so much so that he made every provision necessary for him to get it. And God is just so wonderful. Let us uphold the institution with the reverence, with the sanctification that it is due, because it's a blessed institution. And I'll I'm looking forward to the question and answer afterwards. Thank you.